This video is sponsored by Bamboo Lab. For the past year, I've been uploading weekly videos to the YouTube channel, and recently weekly build videos, which have been really awesome. Like, the channel has grown significantly since last year, and it's been really rewarding doing this and seeing all of the positive feedback and, working with brands that I've always wanted to work with. It's also been super challenging because behind the scenes, I also work a normal job. I have a very limited amount of time to actually make the videos. One of the systems that I've had to put into place is the rolling B-roll stand system, and I've done 2 videos on this already. This is the 3rd iteration, and I've done some major upgrades to it, which I'd like to share. So if you want to get into content creation, or if you're already a content creator, for example, this could be really useful to you as well. So it was borrowed from Caleb Pike. He showed this rolling A-roll stand system like a long time ago, and then I clicked in my head, like, what if we just add some pistol grips to that? And that way you don't have to deal with a tripod if you're recording B-roll. So of course the main benefit being that you can super quickly adjust the height of it, and that way you can quickly check out shots. What I noticed with a tripod is if you have to unlatch 3 columns, then oftentimes you just put it in a position and you just like, okay, this is it. We're not going to be checking different angles to see which one's the best. And with this light stand system, you can also just roll it around to find different angles. This is a newer light stand. It comes with a normal light stand center column. I replaced that with a center column from Ambitful pistol grip light stands, because those can also unscrew in segments, so you can actually reduce the height so it can roll underneath doorways. The pistol grip is also from Ambitful, but this little plate here is actually from a Godox pistol grip system. Now these days you can buy everything I have going on right here in a single kit, so I saw this light stand from Salons. I'll leave a link to it down in the description down below. I haven't bought this one personally, but it seems really quite decent because it comes with that little plate that the Godox came with, the unscrewable columns which the Ambitfuls came with, and the pistol grips with the front mount as well that Ambitful came with. The only thing that it doesn't really have is the braces at the side, which add an extra point of contact to the center column, and in that way I think it might actually be a little bit more stable than just having that single point of contact which you see on the Salons one. So keep that in mind. It might still be worth it to buy the newer light stand. One of the issues that I have been running into though is that I put a normal sandbag on this thing to weigh it all down, because if you put a heavy camera load on there, then it will tip over if you don't put that on there. The thing is, when you go for very low angle shots, then the pistol grip, it bashes into the sandbag and you can't go as low as you want to, or you have to remove the sandbag, and sometimes that can be a little bit dangerous because then you go back up and it tips over. I wanted to come up with a different solution for this, and I started 3D scanning the legs themselves, cleaned it up, and I started work on a design that would basically counterweight this entire thing, but not get in the way of the pistol grip itself. So the design is based around 12mm multiplex, which has a bottom plate, and that connects to the bottom of the light stand itself with some ratchet straps, so you can still remove it really easily. And then in each corner segment, we have a little bucket of sorts, and we can fill that up with heavy materials. The bulk of it is laser cut, and then we have the corner pieces which are 3D printed on the Bamboo Lab A1. So Bamboo Lab is also the sponsor for today's video. They offer a wide variety of 3D printers ranging from the A1 Mini all the way up to the H2D, and accommodating filaments to support that structure as well. So all of these filaments, they come with a little NFC tag in there. Once you connect them to the AMS unit, then it automatically recognizes which filament is in the system, which is really awesome because the success rate with the Bamboo Lab printers is really quite high. And so for this project I use PETG HF, which is a little bit stronger than PLA, and these are in the corners over there, so if we bash it into stuff, then it will be a little bit more impact resistant. In this case, the print took about 7 hours, and it's really nice that they have this inbuilt camera system so you can actually check up on it. Maybe you went to work, or you just want to see if everything's still doing okay. It also has some AI features in there, which automatically stop the print if something goes wrong, which is really neat. And in general, I gravitate towards the Bamboo Lab printers quite a lot for projects like this. Also smaller things around the house, because they're just really reliable and the print quality is super high as well. So one of the other things that I wanted to fix with the 3D printer is the little bit of tilt that you experience in the pistol grip itself. I still have this design laying around from iteration 2, so I wanted to reprint this and put it on this one as well. I actually really appreciate the speed of these 3D printers as well. So this one took about 4 hours, and it's quite a large object that, it significantly enhances a thing that we're building here. The way that it's put together is basically it has ball bearings on the side, and that's apparently enough to counter that tilt entirely. Bamboo Lab is actually celebrating their 3rd anniversary right now, and that ends on the 15th of July. So if you want to get some discounts on 3D printers, then definitely check that out. Special thanks to Bamboo Lab for sponsoring this video. I'll leave some links in the description down below. So the 3D prints came out looking really quite decent, and what we use these for is on the sides over here, those hold the plates in place. Now I thought about actually gluing stuff in place, but I wasn't actually sure if this would account for enough weight on this thing. So if it wasn't working out, then we'd have to recut everything. In this case, you can take the side plates off and exchange them for a higher level, and that way it's a little bit more upgradable. If we ever need to add a heavier camber load to this thing, then we can still upgrade this system. And use some super cheap ratchet straps over here to mount it onto the bottom and store the excess on the inside. As for what we're filling it up with, I bought this massive bag of sand. This is really useful because you can push it into all of the corners. You could just put stone or gravel or anything that's really heavy in this thing. And I also saw this video from I Like to Make Stuff. He made a similar stand system, but then a lot more advanced and a lot more custom. But he had a bottom segment which you could use to store lenses, for example, or SD cards. So that would also be really quite awesome to build into one of these systems. In this case though, it's purely just counterweight. If you're enjoying the video so far, by the way, then definitely consider subscribing, leaving a like, leaving a comment. Now, if you'd like access to the designs that I make, you can also check out my Patreon page. I upload all of the 3D scans that I make over there and all of the designs in the original Shaper 3D file, so you can also adjust it to your own liking. As it is, you could just put a fluid head on there or a ball head and then plonk the camera on this thing, but then you'd only be able to capture stationary shots. In my content, I like to make use of like a slider so that some shots can have a little bit more dynamic feeling to it. And so I tried a couple sliders. I've tried the Edelkrone Slider Plus. After that, I tried the Top Rig S60 from Maxoon. And this time around, we're testing out the Shark Nano 2. This is something that iFootage actually sent me for a prior video. So the Shark Nano 2 is really awesome because it has a DJI integration with the gimbals that DJI makes. And this lends itself really nice to this because, you know, it's not like a tripod. It's not as stable as a tripod, so it does tilt quite a bit. The gimbal compensates for that, right? So we don't have to fix that in post anymore. And couple that with the controls that we have on the side. So you can hit these two buttons, then it goes into the unlocked mode. You can see the little lock icon at the top over there. Then you can push it into whatever position you want it. And you can push the gimbal into whatever position you want it as well. And you can set the in points and out points. And that's a super quick workflow. That's way faster than the Edelkrone. That's also way faster than the Maxoon. Now you need to keep in mind that if you put a larger camera on the system, you might run into some issues because the back of the gimbal is almost hitting the pole over there. I haven't had any problems with it because I use the XH2S, which is a smaller, mirrorless camera. In general though, I really enjoyed the Shark Nano 2. It does have a couple glitches, so every time you start it up, you need to put it into push mode, which is really quite frustrating. I wish it just did that automatically. If you don't put it into push mode, it just won't memorize which spot it was in. In terms of battery life though, it does last quite a long time. And that was one of the issues I had with the Edelkrone slider as well. So the Edelkrone was like finished within 30 minutes. And the Maxoon lasts like a couple of days. I've left that one on for a weekend and it was still running, so that was really quite funny. This one, yeah, it sits somewhere in between. I think you get a couple of hours out of this thing every time. But I hope it gave you some inspiration. I hope it helped you out, and hopefully see you in the next one.